a young age, talking my sucking to the mass and writing my poems for the few that looked at me, took at me, shook at me, feeling me, singing from heartache, from the pain, taking my message from the veins, speaking my lesson from the brain, seeing the beauty through the. You made me a believer, believer. You break me down, you build me up, believer, believer. Let the bullets fly or let them rain. My life, my love, my drive, it came from. You made me a believer, believer. Third things, birds and the prayer to the ones up above. All the hate that you heard has turned your spirit to a dove. Your spirit up above. I was choking in the crowd, building my rain up in the cloud, falling like ashes to the ground, hoping my feelings they would drown. But I never did, ever lived, ebbing and flowing, and never did limit until it broke over and it rained down. It rained down like. You made me a believer, believer. You break me down, you build me up, believer, believer. Let the bullets fly or let them rain. My life, my love, my drive, it came from. You made me a believer, believer. You made me a believer, believer. You break me down, you build me up, believer, believer. Let the bullets fly or let them rain. My life, my love, my drive, it came from. You made me a believer, believer.
Hello, my pack, my tribe. Sheesh. As I was saying, hello, my pack, my tribe. Welcome to Ghost Wolf Live. So, as you may have noticed, tonight's episode is called Unexpected, Undetected, and Unexplained. Hold on one sec. Just making sure that post. Alright, so, little side note before we get started. I just got my computer running again. So, I'm back, baby. Oh, yeah. So, little other update, I guess. Um, for those that haven't heard me in a while, which is pretty much everybody, because, as I said, I haven't had a computer for a little bit. The few shows I have done have been off my phone, which, you know, sucks. Because I can't use my fancy new mic. Anyways, um, I left Rubbermaid. No longer there. I went back to One of a Kind. One of a Kind Pet Rescue, for those that don't know, in Akron, Ohio. Awesome rescue. Do great work with animals. Fantastic. And it's really kind of, I guess, my calling. Uh, anyways, I went back because they're under new management and things have vastly improved. Um, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Uh, okay, so on to tonight's show. Uh, to kind of explain where this idea came from. Um, I've been watching a lot of, well, I always watch a lot of stuff on like Hulu and whatnot, but lately I've been watching a lot of mi- uh, the guys that did Mysteries at the Museum started a new show called Mysteries at the Monument, and they've actually been to more than a couple places that are purported to be haunted, which, in my personal opinion, are um, that I've been to. So that's part of it, and then also I've been watching a lot of uh, Josh Gates, well, kind of new show. It's in its second or third season. I forget which. Uh, uh, his new show is called Expedition Unknown, and it's not so much geared towards the paranormal, but there have been a few episodes that are definitely paranormal leaning, I guess you could say. Um, so that's also part of it. And then I guess what you could say is the last part is we haven't been doing a lot lately. Um, as far as investigating, we've really been kind of hampered in three parts. First part is that we've just been too busy. Um, at least Nora and I have. I'm not sure about Becky, but I know she works a lot, so probably her too. Um, second, the weather, because I mean we would love, absolutely love to do more of the cross-eyed news. That is by far our new favorite place. And once again, we're going to hold events in the near future, and I'll be updating you guys on dates and times for that. Um, Very reasonably priced. you will not be disappointed. I can't guarantee anywhere it's going to be active for you because I don't know you. But I will say that if any place is going to be active, it's going to be this place. It. I've been to the Whaley House in San Diego. I've been to the Westminster, or not Westminster, the Winchester Mystery House. I've been to the Mansfield Reformatory. I've been pretty much all over the country. Name a place. I've been to Preston Castle. I've been on the Queen Mary and the Spruce Goose, which, by the way, it surprises me nobody's covered the Spruce Goose on TV because it's haunted as shit. Anyways, I've been to all those places, right? I've also been to places that have never been on TV that are incredibly haunted, including a certain motel or hotel, part of their chain in, in Pennsylvania near the Poconos that I will not name, but I will say that location was very, very haunted and incredibly active. Incredibly active. So, I've been to all those places, but none of them, not one, not the Winchester Mystery House, not Mansfield Reformatory, not Preston Castle, not the Whaley, none of them hold a candle to how active this place was for us. And none of it was negative, right? But we haven't been able to go there. In part because of the weather, and also because, this is like their busy time of year, really. Because they do a lot of weddings, and there's a lot of weddings and wedding receptions, evidently, in like December, January, etc., etc. But we'll probably be starting up again here pretty soon. I would imagine this spring. I'm hoping. I'll have to get a hold of Jen and Debbie and the lovely ladies at the Cross-Eyed Moose and get some dates set. So we will be updating you on that, but that's also part of the reason for tonight's shows. We haven't been able to do stuff like that, largely, I think, because of the weather. Because, I mean, aside from the Cross-Eyed Moose, a lot of the places we would go are primarily outside. And nobody wants to be out in this shit for any length of time if they've got a choice. Alright, so there's that. And because we haven't been able to do all that stuff, I've been kind of reflecting, if you will, on past cases of mine. And not just with Ghostal Paranormal, even before that. Both doing kind of my solo thing that I did for years, and also with San Diego Ghost Hunters, which is not the same as the San Diego Ghost Hunters that exist now. It was actually a different organization with the same name. Actually, before they existed. Anyways, I digress. So, that's where the idea for tonight's show came, and also, probably the last reason for tonight's show is things that have happened to me, um, I mean, there's been a few things recently, but things that happened to me that I wasn't expecting um, in the past too, and I'll get into uh, a lot of that. By the way, I'm going to jump on here super quick. So let me go. God damn it! I hate it when it does that. Stop. What are you gonna do? I really kind of hate the predictive part of like browsers and phones and shit. It annoys the crap out of me because I I have to go back and basically retype what I was going to type in the first place. Just a little annoying. Sorry, I'm waiting for this website to load. There we go. Anyways, you can I believe it's still on this. 1 second. Hmm. Well, I'll have to fix that. Okay, so you can also follow along and chat and listen live at ghostwolfradio2.weebly.com. It used to be on ghostwolfghosthunters.weebly.com also, but apparently the player broke, so I need to fix that. Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna get into the unexpected part of tonight's show. So, I'm a big believer in fate, and kind of always have been, but slightly different in that. Oh, well, shit. The link, the thing on Ghost of Radio 2 is also broken. So I guess you can't listen along until I fix it. Anyhow, um, it'll just have to be through Facebook or whatever. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I've always been a big believer in fate, but not like a lot of people are. What I mean by that is, like most people that are big believers in fate think that everything is predetermined, right? It's all part of some master plan by God or whatever their higher power is, or by the universe itself, or whatever it is that they believe. Doesn't matter, really. Not really pertinent to my current point. I'm slightly different. See, I believe in fate wholeheartedly, but I don't think fate is the destination. I think fate is the roadmap, if that makes sense. I think that it plays a hand, but where exactly we go with it is up to us, right? Case in point, and this once again I'm going to be talking about Cross-Eyed Moose, which I'm going to do a lot because I fucking love that place, and if you don't like it, too fucking bad. I don't care. Um, but anyhow, um, the way the whole thing with the Cross-Eyed Moose and us happened, right, was I received this very lovely email from Jen, who's the manager or director, I guess you would say, of the Cross-Eyed Moose. She's like the head honcho there. Very sweet lady. She's absolutely awesome. I love her. Kind of like as a gift, she gave us a bunch of like dream catchers and shit, and it actually really moved me because it was totally unexpected. But anyhow, uh, how we first got together, I guess you could say, is she sent out this really nice email, and it wasn't just me. It was like a bunch of different people, a bunch of different paranormal groups uh, in the area that got one of these, basically saying, "Hey, I've got a very unique location. Um, would you like to come check it out?" Et cetera, et cetera. And so I wrote back to her, and I guess I was the only one that did, because something just told me, and that's kind of how fate works. Like you don't always know how to put your finger on it in the moment. It's just kind of, well, something told me. And that's what happened. Something told me to respond to her, so I did. I said, well, we would love to come investigate and yada, yada, yada. And does it cost anything? She's like, no, it's free. And I'm like, well, okay. And then we started talking, emailing back and forth a little bit. And then at one point I said, you know what? I don't just want to. And this is before we even went there. So I was getting these, I guess you could call them vibes or feelings or whatever. Um, and so I'm not entirely sure what came over me or why I wrote this back to her. I just felt it and I was in the moment. So I did it. But I sent back at one point, we don't just want to investigate there. Or, how did I say it? I said, We don't want to be a team that investigates there. We want to be the team that investigates there. And then I went on to explain that it is our desire to be their go-to team. Like we'll be the team that hosts like events there, which we are all about doing. And by the way, just to be very very clear, because I've had some problems with this in the past, and it was entirely my fault. I guess I wasn't clear when this happened. And just to kind of briefly explain, I hosted an event at another location, the Mansfield Fire Department, one time. And, I was trying to do the nice thing and feed everybody. And so I took part of the money that was paid to buy pizzas for everybody. Well, that, I guess, flew like a lead balloon. People didn't appreciate that all the money didn't go to the Farm Museum, which, yeah, it was kind of my idea, but it was okayed by um, Bobby, who's in charge. So, you know, it's kind of whatever. But yeah, I guess they didn't appreciate that. Uh, the money we spent on pizza could have gone to the Farm Museum or whatever. And I think that's just some people are kind of, I guess, sensitive about that kind of thing, and I get it. So it was my bad. I should have never even brought it up as an idea, I guess. And the people that were upset with me, I hope they can forgive, and I hope they come investigate the cross-eyed moose, because what I'm about to say is that Ghostal Paranormal and myself have agreed that we will get absolute zero of the proceeds. It all goes to the cross-eyed moose. Every cent. None of it will be spent on anything unless it's spent by the cross-eyed moose folks themselves. It will not be us doing it. All we're there to do is host the events, host the ghost hunts. That's it. Um, and we don't want anything from it. That's not why we're doing it. We're essentially looking to, uh, well, at least my personal goal in doing this is I want to spread the message that just because a place is haunted doesn't mean it's negative. There's positive to it too. In fact, in my experience, there's a lot more positive than there is negative. It's just that people have a tendency to focus on the negative because negative always sucks more. So, yeah, us getting involved with them was like fate played a big part in that. I have no doubt, because for somehow they Jen, who never heard of us before, found us. And I know she found us on a website and whatever, but sorry, dang it, need a drink. Um, but there were literally hundreds, if not thousands, of groups on that website. How she landed on us, I don't know. and it was us and like I think 7 or 8 other teams. I think, and out of all of them, we were the only one that responded. So yet again, fate, and I believe that wholeheartedly. Seriously, and so that's part of the unexpected. The other parts are things that have happened to me, and okay, to kind of explain to my new listeners, I guess, um, a little bit about my history, which I've done probably hundreds of times now. Um, I see ghosts. Well, I see spirits in general, not just ghosts. I see angels. I see demons. I see things that you don't even know exist. I kind of see it all, and you can be skeptical all you want, and try and say that I'm crazy. I'm not. I've actually been cleared by board of mental health or whatever it is, certified psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists as being completely sane. Okay? So, think what you want. You can think I'm crazy all you want to. I am crazy, just not in the way you think. But it doesn't mean that what I see isn't real. And I know personally in my heart of hearts that it is real, very real. I've interacted not just, by sight. I've reacted physically to things that I see. So when I say I see something, you can believe it or not, but I, I don't know if I were you personally, I would take it seriously. Um, and some of the things that I've seen, some of the things I've felt and heard were completely unexpected. So we're going to go way back in time here to almost the beginning. So I don't remember exactly how old I was. I know I was very young. My mom used to work for and at Disneyland for a short time in Anaheim, California. Um, in fact, there is or was a picture of me at Disneyland by the log ride. I want to say, if memory serves correct, I was really little though, and I personally don't really remember it, but there you have it. Um, but the one memory I do have is I remember I don't remember who I was with. I don't remember if I was with my mom or who, but I do remember being. And if you've been to Disneyland, you probably already know where this is. Um, I remember being kind of by. It's a small world in Snow White's castle, and Snow White's castle is that iconic castle. It's actually the logo for Disney. Um, and I saw this guy, and he was a very sharp dressed man, um, in a it was a two piece suit, but it was very sharp looking, I will say. And even at that young age, I recognized that it wasn't like a cheap suit, right? And sorry, my dogs are barking. Hush. Anyways, um, but I had no idea who he was. I was just a kid. And then years later, I saw a picture of the same guy in this book that was about like pioneers of Southern California in general. And the guy that the article was about was Walt Disney. Now, here's the thing. Walt Disney was dead by this point. I don't remember the exact date of death, but hold on. I'm actually going to look it up. If this freaking thing will load. There it goes. Same. Okay, so Walt Disney was born December 5th, 1901. He died December 15th of 1966. I was born December 24th of 1969. Which means that I saw Walt Disney at Snow White's castle at least a full 3 years, or no, well, more, probably like 8 years or so. After his death. Now, here's the thing, and this is where the unexpected part comes in. This was before I could see them. Because the event that gave me that particular gift hadn't happened yet. And as far as I know, as far as I can remember, at that time, he was the only one I saw. At that point. Now, it's possible there could have been others I just don't remember. Because I was young. I was under 5 years old. Because I've been able to see him since I was 5. And by the way, little side note, As of Christmas Eve, I just celebrated my 50th birthday. So happy birthday to me. I've somehow made it to half a century. Oh, boy. I can promise you this. I don't know if I'll make it, but I'm going to do my damnedest to last another half a century. And when I die, I'm going to hunt all you fuckers. Hunt every single last one of you. In a nice way. I'm not going to scare you. I'm at least going to stop in and say hi. How about that? I'm kidding. I won't. Because I don't know where you all are. Anyways. um, yeah, so that was unexpected. The next unexpected thing that happened to me that I want to talk about is actually tied to one of the most haunted places in America, the Whaley House. Now, to explain this, I lived in San Diego at least through a good chunk of my childhood. Okay? Um, from, I want to say, junior high school to my early to mid 20s was all in the same place, which was this, well, same two places actually, El Cajon, California, and Lakeside, California, which are neighboring towns. And by the way, California is very different than in Ohio or a lot of places um, east of the Mississippi. Um, in that San Diego County is bigger than some of these states. It's freaking huge. It literally takes you I don't know, like two. Let's see. No, like from San Ysidro, which is it is the border town to Mexico, um, to Oceanside or no Escondido, which is the northernmost town. So to get from the very southern edge of San Ysidro, right at the border, to the very northern edge of Escondido is almost 3 hours. That's San Diego County is that big. San Diego actually consists of a lot of towns. Okay, this is the point I'm making. It's massive. It would be like, to put it in terms that Ohioans can understand, it would be like combining uh, like Summit County, Trumbull County, and Stark County together, and then there would probably still be room. It's fucking massive, is my point. So, anyways, I was living there, and there's this place called Old Town San Diego. It's actually legitimately the original part of the town of San Diego from the 1800s. Original buildings and all, right? And one of those original buildings is the Whaley House. Now, I had lived through good, like I said, through a good chunk of my childhood in San Diego, but I didn't really know anything about the Whaley House. I'd never even heard of it before this particular trip, and I was still somewhat young. I was like I think uh, 23 maybe, and I just gone to Old Town for the first time by myself. I'd been there years before um, with my parents. I was still somewhat young, like like maybe 10, I want to say. Um, and I remember we walked by the Whaley House, and I vaguely remember getting like a weird sensation, but and I thought I had seen something out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that it was reportedly a haunted place. Not to mention one of the most haunted places in America. Arguably, arguably the most haunted house in America. Right? I didn't know that at the time. So here I am. I'm like early 20s, whatever. And they do like these daily tours, like pretty much all day, pretty much every hour on the hour, um, where you can go in and tour the whole house, right? And I experienced a lot of the things that other people there have experienced on this visit, you know. And I remember getting a weird feeling in the middle of the stairway going up to the second floor, but it wasn't the same thing that everybody else felt because okay, for those that don't know, I'll give you a little bit of history. Uh, I think it was like 1860. I want to say 1863, but I could be wrong on the year. Uh, you're more than welcome to look this up if you wish to. Um, there was a guy by the name of Yankee Jim who I don't remember the entire story. He was, I think he was hung for horse thievery, but it could have been something else. In any case, he was hung, and there used to be this tree that they hung all the criminals and whatnot from. Right, it was their hanging tree. Well, the spot where the hanging tree was is where the Whaley House was built. In fact, Thomas Whaley bought that plot of land because he knew it'd be super cheap because that's where all the hangings were. But most people report like the feeling of something around their neck in the middle of that stairway because it's supposedly where the tree would have been. Right? Makes sense. It's not what I felt though. What I felt was different. It it was like the chills, that statically chill feeling, like us seasoned investigators know so well, um, and have believed forever that it's when we come physically in contact with the spirit. It was like that, but I I also got the sense that whatever it was did not like me. Like it almost intended to do me harm. But I didn't see anything at that point. At least not there. Like I'd seen who I think was Mary Whaley, um, on the second floor from like the bottom of the stairs, briefly. And I saw her plain as day. I can describe to you her dress. She had what's called a gingham dress, which I guess was like the style in the 1800s, and it it's gonna sound like I'm disparaging what she was wearing, but I'm really not. I'm just trying to be as descriptive as possible. So the color was like a dark purple or even like burgundy color, but then it had like these floral patterns, much like you would see on curtains nowadays. Not saying that she was wearing curtains, just describing the pattern. And it had like this white kind of frilly thing going on around the neck. I mean, look up a picture of pretty much anyone from the 1800s. It's the kind of dress it was, pretty much. Um, and she was very pretty, by the way. Um, I mean, especially for that time. Um, and she struck me as very young, which we know now she was. But I digress. So I saw her, but I didn't see whatever it was that was giving me this sensation, right? But I remembered and had heard that as I entered the door, the lady that was giving the tour said, she was explaining a little bit about what people have experienced there, and had mentioned that people had reported, like physical feeling around their neck in the middle of the stairs. Um, but it's just not what I felt. And but I knew what she was talking about, and I toured the whole house. Didn't really experience anything else in the house. It wasn't until I went to the backyard where the garden is. So I believe her name was Elizabeth Whaley. I could be wrong, but I think that was the name of Thomas Whaley's wife, was Elizabeth. Of course, I might have it backwards or totally screwed up. Who knows? Um, but in any case, uh, I was checking out the garden, and it was a gorgeous garden. Still to this day is, as far as I know. But there was like this really cool kind of like white lattice work arch, which um, wasn't really common in Southern California, at least not at that time. But it had like flowers and stuff like interwoven between the lattice work, which was, I thought, really cool. I'd never seen that before. Um, Of course, nowadays it's like a popular addition to like every wedding in the country. But back then it really wasn't done. And I'm not the kind of guy that goes around looking at flowers all day. But I do appreciate artistry. As I've always been kind of artistic myself, with music and with drawing and stuff. So uh, having been new to me and something I'd never seen before, I thought it was absolutely amazing. And so I was underneath that archway and just kind of looking at the garden. And then I turned around and I saw, I think her name was Elizabeth Whaley. I saw Elizabeth Whaley in the upstairs window that faces the garden because it was her garden. And I was just about to step away from that latticework arch, and that's when I felt the the pressure around my neck, which was unexpected. I, in fact, it was all unexpected because I was just kind of going there on a whim because I didn't have anything else to do that day. I was bored. I just I love to explore places that I haven't really checked out or haven't been to in a long time and don't really remember. You know, and that was one of those places because I hadn't been there since I was a kid. I didn't really remember a lot of it, and but I do remember there was something special about the Whaley House, and so I decided to go back, and now I know why. Now all makes sense now, but at the time it was totally unexpected. So for the unexplained portion of the show, I have experienced, as you all know, um, spirits, ghosts are really my bread and butter. Um, However, they are not the only things that I've ever experienced. Um, I've had run-ins with what I expect to be Bigfoot. Okay, um, one of which was with the group I was with before Ghost Wolf Paranormal. Before I found a Ghost Wolf, I was with another team, and we were at this place called Clear Fork Ski Resort, hunting ghosts. Actually, that's what we were looking for. We weren't expecting to find Bigfoot necessarily, or this particular variation of them, because there are several, evidently. This particular variation is called the Butler Bighead, and there's uh, recorded documents from uh, Butler County Courthouse from the 1800s documenting witness statements of the Butler Bighead. So he's been there for quite a while. Just saying. But we weren't necessarily looking for that. We were hunting ghosts. That's kind of our thing. Um, and I was with this other team then, and we were up on the ski slopes, just checking things out, and Actually, I think that night we were actually hosting an event, and so we kind of split everybody up into like two groups. One group followed me and my friend Cody, and one group followed the rest of the team. And our group, we were going up one slope. Their group was going up the other slope, and they kind of run different directions, or from different directions towards the bottom of the hill. Um, anyways, not important. But we, like both teams, essentially heard this howling sound. Okay, so to explain this, um, living in California for all those years, I'm very familiar with the sounds of coyotes. Primarily because that part of California, a lot of it butts into the Mojave Desert, where it's kind of coyote heaven out there. Um, and it was not a coyote. Uh, and of course, you know, being from Montana, I'm very familiar with the sound of wolves, primarily timber wolves. And I've been fascinated with wolves my whole life. It is my namesake. I know what wolves sound like. It was not a wolf. And the reason I know that is it was a howl, but there was too much bass in the voice, in the vocal tones. There was too much bass to it. So like I can actually mimic a wolf howl. Wolf howls are like, oh, right? High pitched, nothing to it. This was more like, oh, I can't even mimic it. Like there was so much bass to it, I can't mimic it. Huh, and let me try. Kind of like that, but like different. I don't even know how to explain it. And unfortunately, I don't have the audio recording anymore because it's with my former team. But we weren't expecting that, you know? Um, and then a little bit later, um, both groups kind of like got back together to discuss, things. And we were like, did you hear that howl? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, that wasn't a wolf or a coyote, right? He's like, yeah, you know. And then we went down one slope together, both groups. And as we were going down the slope, there's slope, and then off to both sides, there's like forested area in between, right? And in the woods to our left, we heard this loud sound. Like it's honestly to me at the time it sounded a lot like a gunshot. In retrospect now, I know that it was not a gunshot. It was actually the sound of a tree being broken in half. Or not half, but like at its base. And so I took a flashlight and went to investigate it. And took a picture, which unfortunately I don't have anymore. Still, former team. Um, but there were claw marks on what was left of the tree, and it had stripped the bark away. Now, once again, I'm familiar with animals. I've been fascinated with them my whole life. I know the difference between the claw marks of a wolf or bear or even a mountain lion. This was none of those things. For starters, the claw marks that were left on this tree could only been made by something with opposable thumbs. And it looked like it wasn't like just a couple claw marks. They clawed the shit out of it like they were trying to weaken it, maybe to break it, or maybe they were trying to sharpen their claws on it. Who knows? But this was not a diseased tree. It was a healthy tree that got snapped. Now, does that mean it was Bigfoot? Or the Butler Big Head? Whatever? I like to think so. I don't have another explanation for it. But make of it what you will. Still, it was unexpected. But if you want to get real unexpected, I have not one, but two UFO stories. Now, um, to explain, in my younger years, I was neither a believer or a disbeliever in UFOs. I found the subject matter to be fascinating, particularly when it pertained to like sci-fi movies and stuff. But aside from that, I never really thought about it. And a lot of that was because I had nothing to base it off of, personally. I loved movies featuring alien life. I was a big Star Wars nut when I was a kid, and like everybody else. And I was very much into Star Trek also when I was young, and I somewhat still am. Although I will say I do not approve of Disney owning the rights to Star Wars. There, I said it. Get the fuck over it. Anyways, um, and I swear to God, Stan Lee's got to be rolling over in his grave that they own Marvel. But anyhow, I digress. Point is I never really thought about it. Never really believed one way or the other. So I was about 13, 14 years old. Perhaps a bit younger. Anyways, it was the year that Halley's Comet uh, was within view from the Earth. Whatever year that, it was 1980 something or other. Feel free, once again, to look it up. I'm not going to. Anyways, so I was like within like range of, I'd say, teenage years. Um, like young teenagers. I wouldn't say I was more than 15, maybe. in any case, me and a friend of mine went on this field trip to go camping, and the idea was is that a bunch of us kids from school, and it was uh, uh, an official outing, right? We, we were gonna go camping and sleep under the stars and watch for Halley's Comet. Unfortunately, it was kind of overcast that night, and I don't recall ever seeing it. So I was kind of bummed about that, and a lot of my friends were kind of bummed about that. And then me and a couple of my friends decided that we were kind of going to have, and this was like a couple days later, I think, maybe a week later or something like that. We decided we were going to have like an unofficial outing to kind of go do the same thing because we had heard that usually other asteroids or comets or whatever follow the trail of Halley's Comet after it passes. I do remember that at the time, as young as I was, I did kind of have designs on being an astronomer, and I was kind of set on that until I figured out how much fucking math was involved. Uh, but so, anyways, we camped out and we were all, in our sleeping bags. No tents, just sleeping bags on the ground, looking up at the sky, and it was a clear sky that night. And I do remember seeing, shooting stars, asteroids, comets, whatever. Um, and it was starting to get pretty late. It must have been past midnight. And I don't know exactly what time because I didn't have a watch or any way to tell time, really. But I do remember that everybody had kind of fallen asleep except for me and my buddy Jeremy. And we were lying awake, kind of talking about this and that and, kid shit. And all the asteroids and stuff had already gone by, but we're still, looking up at the sky just in case, you know. You never know. Uh, when we saw a UFO. Here's the thing. I can picture in my head to this day the way this thing moves. Exact movement. How fast it moves, how it moves, everything. I've got it burned in my brain. And I've seen a lot of aircraft in my time. A lot in the military. A lot before the military because for a long time I was very fascinated by aircraft. In fact, when I originally enlisted, I wanted to be a pilot. Once again, until I figured out how much fucking math was involved. Uh, so, yeah, that kind of didn't happen. But so I made it a point to know aircraft, is what I'm getting at. So I know how they fly. I know what they're capable of. And at the time, there was no aircraft, no helicopter in the world that moved that fast, that could turn the way this thing turned. Because as we're up looking at the sky, because initially we thought it's a comet, right? Like, of course, we were out spotting comets. It's what we would naturally think. Except it was way too bright, for starters. It appeared to be too close to be a comet, but still far enough away that it didn't make sense that it would be like an airplane or something. So, from our perspective laying there, it flew from right to left, right? But when we first saw it, it just kind of appeared. And what I mean by that, it was like it just turned the light on. Like maybe it'd been there for a while and just turned the light on. Maybe so that we would notice it. And it kind of hovered in one spot for a good minute or two. And what I mean by hovered, like, if you ever watch like how a helicopter hovers, like on the news or TV shows, movies, whatever, they don't really fake how a helicopter flies in Hollywood. Like it's pretty accurate. But when they hover, they kind of move back and forth a little bit because it's not a perfect hover. They're very much affected by things like wind, gravity, things of that nature. That so it's not a completely stable, staying in one exact spot, motionless hover. They're kind of going back and forth a little bit. This was not doing that. It was stationary, completely stationary. It wasn't moving back and forth, wasn't doing any of that, right? And it hovered in that one spot for a good minute or two, and then it went from left to right faster than I had ever seen anything move at that point. Way faster than any jet. It was literally so quick that it, when it moved, it looked like a line of light was drawn across the sky. And then, like a second later, probably not even a second later, it was on the other side. So what I'm saying is it didn't even register as movement until it had already moved. If you catch what I'm getting at. So it moved from left to right, for starters, and before our brains even registered that it moved from left to right, it changed direction again and went kind of diagonally back towards the left, but up, or north if you want to call it north, and then went clear across the sky as far as we could see it. until it was gone. Here's the thing. It was the way it turned wasn't like because like aircraft as we know it, both airplanes and to some degree helicopters, when they turn, they do what is called banking. Which, if you've ever watched like Top Gun, you know what banking is. Banking is where the whole craft tilts to one side or the other to go into the turn, right? Somewhat akin to like how a motorcycle rider leans into the turn, kind of like that. So it banks into the turn. So when it turns, it doesn't just make a straight edge turn right or left. It banks and it kind of curves to the right or left. Right? This thing literally stopped on a dime and changed direction without that movement, without that curve. It was a straight line. And what I mean by straight line is, I'm not saying, well, we perceived it as a straight line. No, it was a straight fucking line. You could take a ruler to it. Straight line. No aircraft anywhere on Earth. Well, I mean, they could be on Earth, who knows. But known on Earth, let's say, flies that way. No airplane, no helicopter, no drone even today. None of it flies that way, even today. Now, I'm not saying it was little green men per se. I am saying that it's unexplained. Now, it is entirely, I guess, feasible. Just as much as it could be alien craft, it could also be a government experiment that, for whatever reason, got scrapped. Because Cold War was still going on at this time. Maybe the Russians found out. Not impossible. But to this day, no known aircraft flies that fast and with that kind of precision. Doesn't happen. Can't happen. We don't even have the mathematics to make that a physical reality. You understand what I'm saying? Like it doesn't exist yet. So anyhow, that was really kind of like the first, in a lot of ways, the biggest UFO experience I've ever had. Years and years later, uh, I have formed Ghost Wolf Paranormal, and we've gone through several changes over the years. A lot of membership has changed. A lot of uh, members that were part of our team have gone. Um, Moved on to other things, left for reasons I'm not going to get into, things like that, happens. Um, But we did an investigation with some people that are no longer members of the team. Uh, for once again reasons I'm not going to get into. And it was an awesome investigation, I thought, for a lot of reasons. But probably the biggest one is well, we were there to hunt ghosts, right? And this was at a place called Shreve Swamp, which was kind of funny because we were kind of there illegally, I guess. Like we didn't know that at the time, but it's actually game reserve. Like people hunt there. We didn't know that. So like this very nice game warden came up and talked to us for a bit, and he was really cool with us being paranormal investigators and all that. But anyways, I digress. So we were out there looking for ghosts, and we found them. By the way, there were definitely ghosts around, spirits around, whatever you want to call them. But then at the same time, all this paranormal activity is happening down on the ground. We all see this UFO fly overhead. And it wasn't as bright as the one that I saw when I was a kid. It wasn't as impressive, but it was definitely noteworthy because it was the first time we'd seen a UFO in a place where we were ghost hunting it. That was unexpected. Right? So for the undetected. Okay, so this story goes back a bit, um, for me, anyways. It was years before, really, um, Ghost or Paranormal was even a thought. In fact, I was doing the solo thing, so I must have been uh, maybe mid to late 20s. I want to say around 27 ish. 27, 28, somewhere in there. And trying to remember where the fuck I was actually. Because even by then I'd been to so many places, not just well-known hauntings, but I'd done a lot of residentials at that point. Oh, that's right. It was in El Cajon, California. There were like it was kind of in between El Cajon and Lakeside. There was this house, and I don't remember exactly where it was at, but I can picture it. It was kind of like that southern antebellum style, like you see all over the South. With the like Romanesque pillars out front, and like you would expect like a southern plantation to look like. It looked like one of those, and it was reportedly haunted as shit. And the girlfriend I had at the time, her and her friends, every time we would go by there, they kind of knew about me being able to see him and everything, but they would constantly mention that the place is haunted, and the girl I was dating at the time, she claimed that she used to live there when she was a kid. I don't know if that's true or not. I kind of found out later that a lot of shit she said wasn't necessarily true. Um, so yeah, and even then, I kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Um, and we would drive by it practically not every night, but we would drive by it a lot, right? Um, at least once a week, I would say. And I don't remember where we were coming from that we would drive by this place, but we would. So anyhow, for whatever reason, this particular night, we decided to stop. Right. And to kind of explain further, um, I knew that I could see them. Up until this point, I did not know that they could hide from me. Here's what happened. So, for whatever reason, we decided that we were going to stop this night. We didn't go inside the building um, because we were pretty sure somebody owned it. And you know, we weren't trying to actually trespass. Just kind of like butt up against it, I guess you could say. So it wasn't like breaking and entering or anything. We were just kind of like looking through windows and shit. And we knew the house was empty because it had been empty for years. Um, and there were, of course, with any like iconic haunted house, there's always stories about that, right? So, um, and we had heard what kind of like the typical stories, like, oh, guy murdered his wife in the house, or you know, whatever, you know, the iconic like reasons for hauntings that we probably all heard at this point. Probably none of which were true, but he knows. Anyway, so we're looking through windows and shit, but we're not like breaking and entering or anything. In fact, we don't even really go past this fence. And the way the fence was actually kind of fucking weird. Um, I don't know if it was like the result of bad planning on the part of the builder, or if like at some point the property lines had been redrawn or whatever. But like, and it was this really kind of cool and creepy looking wrought iron fence. Which, if you've ever seen wrought iron, they usually have the little points at the top, like little arrow points or whatever, and it had those. But they were exceptionally kind of like gothic looking, I guess you could say, and ornate, like they had kind of like these little French, what do they call them? You used to see them like engraved in revolvers in the Old West, what they would call French swirls. I want to say French something or other. Um, Really kind of pretty design work, kind of reminiscent of flowers and paisleys and all that shit, right? So it had all that in the points on the wrought iron fence, which I thought was kind of cool. But it was right up against the house, basically. Like it was so close to the house that you could reach through the gate without opening the gate and touch the bottom step that went up to the door, which was very very strange. I'd never seen that before. I don't think I've ever seen it since. Um, at least not for like residential locations. I've seen a couple like business buildings like that kind of, but I digress. So um, we could get very close to the windows and look inside without actually quote unquote trespassing, which is what we did, and we were spending a lot of time there. At least we didn't intend to. Um, and then not my girlfriend at the time, but our friend, who is also a girl, um, was swearing up and down that she saw somebody walk by this window that she was looking through, which was, you know, kind of on the other corner of the house, I guess you could say. And, you know, neither me nor my girlfriend at the time saw it. We didn't disbelieve her, but like we were kind of like, okay, well, you know, we didn't see it, so what do we say? You know, that was kind of our reaction to it. And so we're looking through the windows. We're, you know, been staring out the whole time, wondering if we're gonna see it too. And we were there for a good long time, probably like 5-10 minutes. You know, looking through these windows. Like she was looking through one, I was looking through another, and we were kind of keeping our bases covered that way. And I hear right in my ear, or it seemed to be right in my ear, clear as day, male voice, go away. And it said get out, didn't say, you know, it said go away. And that's kind of like why it stuck out, because it's saying get out without saying get out, essentially. And I had never heard it quite phrased like that before, even though that's a common thing. Like people say go away all the time. So I don't know why I didn't hear that before, but there you have it. So that in and of itself was unexpected. The really unexpected part was when I turn and look and see this guy in period dress, if you will. I believe they would have referred to it as a lounge suit, or not a lounge, but no, I guess a lounge suit, but a lounge suit or like an evening suit, which would have been like it looked like that really kind of dark red, or maybe like burgundy kind of color, crushed velvet, smoking jacket, which you know, it's kind of like the quintessential thing you would see in movies about the 1800s or late 1700s, where you know some wealthy families, like a Jane Austen novel or some shit, where the guy's sitting there smoking a pipe, you know, in his study, you know, whatever. That it's that kind of jacket, right? And kind of had the frilly collar, and sounded very southern, by the way. says, "Go away." And then I turn and I'm looking at this guy standing behind my girlfriend at the time. She, they couldn't see him. I could see him. She definitely felt him though. She was so creeped out. She ran and got in the car and was like, "Come on, let's fucking go." She's ready to leave us. That's how creeped out she felt. So, that was unexpected. The truly, truly, truly unexpected part happened about 5, 6 months later. Um, and I know it was about 5, 6 months later because it was about 3 months after me and my girlfriend at the time broke up. And I remember that because it wasn't a great relationship. Um, not at the end, anyways. There were a lot of problems there, and I don't think it was really either one of our faults. I just don't think we were as compatible as we first thought. Shit happens. Um, but in any case, uh, I don't know why it dawned on me to do this because I never really uh, thought about it before for some reason. Like I had actually done investigations before where I had to look into a building's history, but for some reason it never dawned on me to look into this house. It never occurred to me for some reason, and I don't know if that was like because somehow the spirits or influenced me not to think of it, or if it was just oversight on my part. I don't really know, but for some reason, uh, about 6 months later, because about 3 months after this event, like I said, me and my girlfriend broke up. That's why I know it was about 6 months. Later, I decided to look into that house. And so I went to the library and I asked one of the librarians to help me um, do some research on the house using that, address, which I can't for the life of me remember anymore. Uh, and found out that the reason why that house looked like a southern plantation was because it was. Um, what happened was this southern gentleman, um, just a few years after the Civil War, had gone to California, like so many people at the time did, to strike it rich in the gold fields of California, and he did. He got very wealthy off of gold mining, and decided that it wasn't enough to have an exact replica of his home built in California. He actually paid to have his house that he lived in I believe it was Georgia, if I remember right, moved to California halfway, little more than halfway across the country, so that he could have his childhood house in as his new home in California. picture of the homeowner, and it was exactly the guy that I saw. Here's the undetected part. He was close enough that he did not have to speak very loudly for me to hear him say, "Go away." So he basically had to be right up on me, but I did not see him. Which means he snuck up on me. Because every spirit before this moment that I had ever experienced was either around, as far as I knew, or they weren't. I knew that they could manifest, and I guess the word would be demanifest at will. But I never knew that they could just poof, hide, and go out of whatever visible spectrum that I could see that other people can't. Until this moment. Because he snuck up on me, said that, and then appeared behind my girlfriend without me seeing him move. Which I did not know was possible at that point, and so is undetected. Because I didn't see him, I didn't hear him until he said something, and I didn't feel him until he said something. But it was a valuable lesson that I know now today. They can actively hide from me if they choose to. I see them all the time. And understand what I mean. All the time. All the time. I see them more often than the kid from The Sixth Sense. All the time. I've learned to kind of ignore it because you have to. You have to mentally and emotionally and spiritually defend yourself. Not saying that these spirits are evil and they're gonna do harm to me or whatever. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, if you can imagine this, right? You're physically dead. You've moved on to the phase of being a spirit, but you still share the same plane of existence. Let's call it. Most people can't see you. And even among the people that could see you, there's not a lot of people that can see you as fully detailed you. There's maybe myself and this is being generous, a handful of people in the entire world that can see spirits with that level of detail. And I'll share a story about what I mean by that in a minute. So, being able to see this gentleman, or rather not see this gentleman, was kind of a shock initially. What was really shocking was they had a picture of him, and it was the same guy. Totally undetected in that moment. Alright, so, and this is kind of going off topic, I guess, a little bit. So, trying to think of a good way of explaining this. Um, so, for those of you that have seen The Sixth Sense, that's how detailed they are to me. I can make out facial features. I can make out a lot of details, and there's several different ways that they'll appear to me, because there's several different ways that they can interact with the world. A lot of people like to think that what we call shadow figures are evil because they're black shadows. No, I'm convinced that that's not true. In fact, I strongly believe that each one of the forms that they can take, like full-bodied apparition, shadow shadow figure, light anomaly, orb, mist, what have you, are potentially all the same thing, just different forms of it, which are taken at will to perform different feats or accomplish different things. Um, Case in point, uh, and this is, I mean, I personally believe this 110%, but that's just me. This is my, I guess you could call it theory. Uh, as, and it's a theory as in I can't prove it yet, anyways. Um, but it is my very strong belief that what separates like a full-bodied apparition from a shadow figure is, I believe, to be a shadow doesn't require as much energy as being a full-bodied, fully detailed apparition. That's just my theory. I mean, I think it makes total sense if that were the case. But once again, that's just me. I'm not trying to force my belief about it on anyone else. You know, there you go. So yeah, it was that was definitely. Ironically, though, uh, perhaps not so ironic, but fuck, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, we'll just go with ironic for the moment. I'm sure somebody in chat or in a message or something will tell me the correct word later if I don't remember it myself. Um, but ironically, very, very few that I encounter um, actively hide from me. And I've developed, I guess you could say, other abilities to where I can sense them even when I can't see them. I don't know if that's a direct result of spirits hiding from me, or uh, just my ability growing and well, not changing as I still see them, but I'm having such brain farts tonight with like words. Um, Anyways, I think you see where I'm going with it. Yeah, so I mean, and and it's that way in like a lot of different aspects of life, not just the paranormal. I mean, never think that you're so good or so great or so better than everyone else at anything, that you can't learn something new. Um, like for those that don't know, um, or were listening earlier, I work for One of a Kind Pet Rescue. Uh, I consider myself to be kind of the unofficial behaviorist dog trainer there. And I mean unofficial as in no one has officially asked me to be that. I personally think you would be a fool to um, appoint anyone else to that job, or to even fail to create that job. Just my opinion. Um, and you know, things are definitely improving, like I said before, because they are actually strongly considering having a on-staff trainer. Um, but I digress. The reason I bring that up, though, is um, there are times when I am coming off at work to other people um, as, I guess, arrogant or conceited or what have you. And I know that I come off like that. I don't really care. Um, Probably nowhere near as much as I should in any case. And it's not that I don't value how people think of me or whatever. Um, because I do in the sense of we all got to get along, you know. But aside from that, I've never really cared what anybody thinks of me, or pretty much thinks about anything, honestly. But I the flip side of that, I guess you could say, is that I'm still constantly learning myself, and I think I'm one of those people that maybe I'm crazy or whatever, but it is a strong belief of mine that the day you stop worrying is the day you die. Um, and I don't necessarily mean physically. I mean like die as in there's just nothing there anymore. Um, so I'm also kind of a hard ass, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and I'm not going to get into that whole thing with the public at large, anyways. But suffice it to say, um, I'm aware of it, you know, and I can come across as very angry, I guess, to people I work with, and I am angry a lot of the time, but not necessarily geared towards them or the volunteers or the people in general all the time. Although I fucking hate morons, and I'm not gonna get into that whole thing, but there you go. Um, but I I'm a big believer in teachable moments. Let's just say that, and I'm learning too. I try and teach everybody around me animal behavior because honestly, I understand animal behavior better than anything. And to I know a lot of people have heard me brag about this, like this year so far alone. But my dog Nacho was featured on Caesar Milan, and Caesar Milan could do nothing with him. And this is my boy, like. So if you see where I'm going there, I know a lot about animal behavior, um, dogs or canines in particular. Um, so I'm constantly trying to teach the people I work with, the people that are around me, about animal behavior and what to do about it. And I can come off sometimes a little gruff or drill sergeant-y. Not that drill sergeant-y is a word, but it should be because, me. Um, and it's not necessarily that I'm trying to come down on somebody. It's just that I want them to learn it and never forget it. Because to me, in that job, it's so important. And don't worry, I'm going to get to the paranormal part of where I'm going with this. By the way, just bear with me. Um, but having said that, I'm constantly learning from other people too. Even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it, sometimes it seems like I know everything, and that everybody else is wrong. Like somebody today at work had made, they were kind of joking, but they made a comment about, well, working with me, uh, everybody else is wrong, and uh, yeah, yeah, they kind of are. I mean, sorry, but uh, when it comes to animal behavior, it, yeah, a lot of the time they are wrong, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing to be wrong on occasion. It's a learning experience, right? So but I'm very aware that it can come off as arrogant in certain subjects and stuff, and the paranormal is no different. There are times amongst my own team, amongst people I've worked with, or people that have been around that I've come across as arrogant or cocky or whatever. And, I am to a certain degree, but also still learning in a lot of ways. But once again, I'm just trying to teach. You know, I come across that way a lot of the time because I want people to remember it, so that I don't have to keep going back over the same thing. Because time is precious. You know, whether it be 30 years or 40 years or 50 years or 100 years on this earth, we've all got a limited amount of time to spend here in the physical realm. So really, this is the place to accomplish everything that you can physically to better the world, to change the world in very tangible, very physical ways on this side of existence. This is the time to do that. So if I seem like a drill sergeant, if I seem gruff or arrogant or cocky or whatever, fine. But the question at the end of the day is, do you remember what I taught you? Guaranteed a good chunk of the time, yes you do. And that's all I'm shooting for. Whether you like me or not, sometime, I mean, I want people to like me, of course, even though I hate most people. I love animal people. I love paranormal people too, because they're open minded and not closed off and not, I can just relate to them, I guess. So I love those kinds of people that are a little bit like me in those ways, you know. So I understand that I can come off that way, you know, and, and hopefully, enough people like me that I can feel good about myself at the end of the day. But ultimately, that's not my goal. My goal is, did I teach you something? Did I open your eyes to something? Because if I change the perspective of even just a handful of people in my lifetime, then I have fucking done my job. And ultimately, that's what I care about. Everything else is secondary to that. And the statement I'm about to make may sound conceited or arrogant or whatever. And I get how it could come off like that, but I actually kind of mean this in a really sort of, I don't know if humble is exactly the right word, but we'll go with that. A sort of humble way, right? It is my fire, my passion, my desire. No matter how conceited, arrogant, or whatever it seems to everyone else, it is my fire to change the world, to change how the world sees us, the paranormal community, how the world sees animals. If I were in a public place right now, if like I were at a club, or at a stadium or whatever, and I had a microphone moment where everybody in the place is being honest, I asked, how many people here can honestly say they understand animal behavior? I guarantee you, less than half of any size group would raise their hands if they're being completely honest with themselves. I guarantee you that out of that number, less than half even have an inkling of understanding of animal behavior. And then cut that in half again, and that's how many people actually understand animal behavior. The paranormal is no different when it comes to that. It, and that's what I'm trying to change. I'm trying to open eyes and hearts and minds. And if I've got to come across as arrogant, if I've got to piss you off to get that done, I'll fucking do it. And I'll sleep well at night, knowing mission accomplished. Do I want people to like me? Yeah, sure, of course. I want people to like me, but is it going to break me if they don't? Fuck no. Because I am who I am, and I don't change for anybody. Nobody should ever change for somebody else. If you're going to change for better or worse, it should be because you believe it for yourself. It should be because you need to do it. Not because you want to do it for somebody else. Because when you do it for somebody else, it never lasts. And if it does, guaranteed, somewhere in your mind, somewhere way back in your subconscious, you're not even consciously aware of it, but somewhere back there, you have a little bit of resentment if you do it for somebody else, towards that person, like it's their fault. Guaranteed. It's natural to feel that way. And do I know everything there is ever going to be known about the paranormal world or animal behavior for that matter? No, I don't. But what I can say with a lot of confidence, even though it may come off as arrogant to some people, when in fact I'm just being truthful, I know more than Caesar Milan. I know more than Zach Bagans. I've been doing it for longer than Zach, first of all. I know more than Grant Wilson or Jason Hawes or pretty much anybody that's ever been on TV doing this shit. I know more than they do. I've experienced more than they have. And I've been doing it for longer than they have. And that's just investigating. I'm not even counting the total of paranormal experience altogether. That's just the investigating. if I were talking about the total paranormal experience, since 5 years old, I just turned 50. That's 45 years. Are there people that have experienced paranormal longer than me? Absolutely, there are. Not a lot, but there's definitely some. But are their experiences as detailed, as potent as mine? Yeah, maybe some. I don't think a lot. And does that sound arrogant? Oh, well, okay then. Sorry, not sorry. I am who I am. And people are either going to like me or they're not. And ultimately, there's very little I can do about that. Because I will not change for anybody. And anybody that would ask me to change is not worth knowing in the first place. And the same goes for you. Anybody, anywhere, that would ask you to change, fuck them. Fuck them. Like, women are all, okay, not women. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't make blanket statements. Um, I know there are some women out there that think that they could change their man, and to those women, I have to say, fuck off. You don't deserve that guy. You don't. You don't fucking deserve him. In fact, you don't really deserve anybody if that's how you think. And I think there are probably a few too many women that think that way. Honestly, um, and I love women. I have a lot of appreciation for women. I appreciate women in some ways I don't think anybody else does, other than other women. Um, so understand, I'm not being misogynistic or anything. I'm not coming down on it. I'm just saying that there's a lot of double standards and shit when it comes to like women these days. Like you want to be treated as equals, but at the same time, you expect to change us. How does that make sense? It doesn't. It doesn't. And here's the thing: you wouldn't you wouldn't even let us try and change you. But we're supposed to let you change us? I don't know. Anyways, I know, off topic. Because I'm sorry. Here's my point. I'm not fucking changing for anybody. I'm very happy with myself, with who I am. I love myself. And that's not being narcissistic or egotistical or anything. That's actually just healthy. Because everybody should feel that way. You should love yourself. Everybody should love themselves. Because until you can do that, you don't really ever love anybody else. And so that's kind of why I attached onto the whole women trying to change men thing. Because if you're trying to change your man, it means you don't love him. Because if you love somebody, you're not trying to change them. They're already who you love. See what I'm saying? So if you're trying to change your man, or I know some men are guilty of it too. If you're trying to change your women, or change your dog, whatever, who they are as individuals. If you're trying to change that, then fuck you. You don't deserve them because you don't love them. Because that's not love. Sorry, I said it. And I know that's off topic or whatever, but just I don't know. It's all interconnected and related, and it just made me think of that. So there we go. So, folks, I think that is about it for tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Um, don't forget to look up and check out the Cross-Eyed Moose Event Center in Homeworth, Ohio, and keep checking back for dates for haunted events there. Um, and I hope I get to see y'all. And if not, then well, next time I guess. Also, I'm gonna have to update the websites. I guess that must have just happened because they were just working the other day. Um, but yeah, I'll fix the the Spreaker players on the websites so people can follow along and stuff. Uh, and I think that's really kind of about it for now. I don't know when I'll be doing another one of these. Hopefully, not too long from now. But until next time, my pack, my tribe. Peace.